Hello, I have not uploaded a video in about 3 years. Stuff's been busy and I've been lacking creativity to make longer videos on my channel, but I finally have gotten that inspiration back and I'm gonna start uploading videos again. But before I get into more longer videos, I'm gonna start re-uploading my TikTok videos onto this account, but make them a little bit longer and better formatted for YouTube. So yeah. Anyways, before we get started with this video, I wanted to quickly address two things I point out in the video. First thing I wanted to point out is that in the video, I talk about how Flash has only really 2 interactions with people. I want to redact that statement and say Sunset truly is the only other person he interacts with besides Twilight. In the video I said Sci-Twi, but even when he interacts with her, it's more of a gag compared to an actual interaction. Like the joke is, ha ha ha, get it? He thinks it's actual Twilight, but it's actually a different version of Twilight, and this version of Twilight doesn't love him. Ha ha, funny. It's not like an actual genuine interaction compared to Timber, who genuinely interacts with his sister, with Applejack, and Sunset. Also, when I talk about Timber having more of a personality than Flash, what I'm talking about is, it's how with Flash, the only kind of personality personality trait you can really describe for him is that he's nice and that he's kind. With Timber, you can name a lot more personality traits. He's smart, he's a little sarcastic, he's very flirty with Twilight, but he also can be vulnerable with Twilight when they start to get closer. Like, they aren't a lot, but the fact that they've made him a little sarcastic, kind, and also a little bit arrogant and full of himself makes him a lot more interesting just compared to, well, he's nice. He's nice to Twilight, which is all Flash is really characterized, especially in the movies. Later in the little Equestria Girl series, he does get a lot better and has more of a personality, but before that, there really wasn't a lot to work with when we really think about it. Also, shout out to Riff, who was the person that actually inspired me to make this video. They actually responded to my tweet where I was talking about my main topic in the video, and they responded part of the reason that people are so biased towards Flash is due to nostalgia bias. And because of that response, it inspired me to make a video about this and looking at Timber and Flash and comparing them. And also shout out to them for making a tweet about something I have thought about for years, and that is the fact that Flashlight is just a lamer version of Twidash. Flashlight is just the boring, straight version of Twidash, and I'm so glad someone finally said it and pointed it out, because I have thought about this for literal years. But to get into a more serious topic, before I start this video, this creator is raising money for Palestine to help provide food. She is 76% of the way towards her goal, so if y'all could spread this around and help donate, that would be wonderful. The link will be in the description. To me, it's so incredibly funny whenever I see younger MLP fans that are close to my age talk about how they hate Timber and how boring he is, and how his only purpose is to be Sci-Twi's love interest, and then in the same breath, talk about how much they love Flash Sentry and Flashlight as a ship. Like if Flash didn't have the same problem as Timber, but much worse. And you can make an argument that Timber is significantly better than Flash. Because at least with Timber, not only does he interact with characters outside of Twilight, but at least he has more of a personality compared to Flash. I don't hate Flash, but the more you think about it and rewatch the movies, the more you realize Flash is really boring. He doesn't interact with anyone outside of Twilight, except for Sunset Shimmer, who is his ex in Sci-Twi. We really don't learn anything about him, and most Flashlight moments can be boiled down to rather Flash does something nice for Twilight and Twilight becomes a mess because of it, or Flash and Twilight bumping into each other and making googly eyes at each other. Hello, this is Editing Luna. Sorry for the bad audio quality. I'm randomly recording this as I'm editing. But to prove that I'm not just pulling shit into my ass and that Twilight and Flash mostly do just make googly eyes at each other and then stumble over their words when talking to each other, I decided to make a little quick mini compilation of most of their moments together. And trust me, almost every single moment is literally them doing that. Besides a couple little moments and then their fight in the Rainbow Rocks movie. Flash doesn't really get more of a personality until they decided not to have Flashlight be a thing, and they gave him more shorts showing off more sides of him and interacting with Sunset more often, which low-key, Flash and Sunset have such a more interesting dynamic compared to Flash and Twilight, but I digress. It doesn't help that characters like Discord, Cheese Sandwich, Big Mac, and even Timber have a lot more of a personality compared to Flash, are all male characters who either get into a relationship with one of the main six or have a romance plot that is focused on them. And it's not like Flash needed to be the super complex character. He can just exist as a love interest. He just needed more of a personality, especially if he was going to be a love interest for the main character of the show. Especially since the characters who do get into relationships at the end of the series and the main cast are in relationships with characters that have these huge personalities and rather have a lot of stuff in common or bounce off each other really well. Now compare Timber to Flash, who doesn't have the biggest personality, but still has a lot more to work with compared to Flash. Firstly, he has interactions outside of Twilight. Granted, they're not a lot of interactions, but there's still something, especially compared to what Flash usually gets. Timber has his relationship with his sister, he has his back and forth with Sunset, and he has a little bit of a competitive rivalry with Applejack in that one Equestria Girls episode. Next, instead of just Sidetwine and Timber bumping into each other, making googly eyes at each other, they actually have fun interactions. They bond over being very nerdy. They are both very flirty and sarcastic with each other. Timber opens up about wanting to do more than just stuff that isn't related to the camp, like going to the mall, which sounds silly, but compared to Flash, at least it's something. And Timber tries to help Twilight open up when he sees she's clearly upset about something. Like, while Timber just exists to be a love interest, at least his interactions with Sidetwine are fun, and at least he has somewhat of a personality and relationships that are outside of Sidetwine, which to me makes him far more enjoyable compared to Flash. And because of all this, it made me curious on why people hate on Timber but give Flash so much more grace, when the things they hate about Timber are far more worse in Flash. But then, after thinking about it and talking with a mutual, I realized it's related to three things. First, a lot of it comes from side-set shippers who hate Timber, which honestly, I'm not even gonna be mad about. Like, it can be a little annoying to me because I find shipping wars in Discord to be really annoying, but at the same time, hating on a male character for getting in the way of a sapphic ship is not something I'll ever truly be mad about, especially since Sidset is objectively better than Timberlight and Flashlight, and it's kind of nice to see a male character get hated on for getting in the way of a ship instead of a female character for once, honestly. Second, it's nostalgia. One of my mutuals on Twitter pointed out that a lot of people hating on Twitter but loving Flash despite them arguably being very similar comes from nostalgia bias. A lot of younger people in the fandom watched the first movie when they are very young compared to the other movies, so they do have that nostalgic love for Flash compared to Timber. Like, the Legend of Everfree movie came out closer to 2016, and a lot of people close to my age who watched that movie or rather closer to being an early preteen or a teenager, or even an adult. So I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia bias compared to the first Sequester Girls movie that came out in like 2013, if I remember correctly. And most people my age were closer to being really young kids, barely preteens or young teenagers, which I'm realizing now is probably why a lot of people close to my age act like the first movie is really good. Even though rewatching it, the first movie has a lot of issues, and it's basically just the high school version of the first episode, which is pretty lame. And you could argue The Legend of Everfree is a little better. Third, it's pushed back against how Flash was originally treated by bronies. I didn't really get into My Little Pony content on YouTube until 2016, when I was 10 years old, which I should have not been online at that age, but it is what it is. But what I remember about the fandom when I was younger was that a lot of people hated on Flash, and while a good amount of it was valid criticism about how boring Flash was, there was also a good amount of people that hated Flash purely because he got in the way of Twilight being their waifu, which I know sounds really weird, but are we surprised some bronies were weird? And due to this, a lot of people felt like part of the reason Flashlight didn't become canon was because a lot of bronies complained about Flash, which I think made a lot of younger fans annoyed and pissed when they found this shit out, and believed Flash deserved a lot better, and that Flashlight deserved to be canon and yet more fleshed out instead of the writers giving up on the ship due to possibly the bronies complaining about Flash. So I think because of that, a lot of people are coming back with the nostalgia of the first movie, defending Flashlight and loving Flash, which I kind of understand. But despite all of that, whether you love or hate Flash and Timber, I think we can all agree on one thing. Both Flashlight and Timberlight are just the lamer versions of Twidash. When you really think about it and really think about their personalities and their designs, they are just the lamer versions of Twidash. And no, I will not elaborate on that.